Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers. And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, another special edition of the Terrible Podcast, Pittsburgh Steelers Training Camp 2024. It is August the 1st, 2024. It is 5:07 p.m. Eastern Time. I am Dave Bryan from SteelersDepot.com, and with me, as usual, Alex Kozora, fresh off of his 7th trip out to Saint Vincent College in Latrobe. And Alex, what day is it? Thursday. We got Friday Night Lights up tomorrow night. It's an exciting time. The pads were not on today. How was your day out there?
It was good. It was hot and warm, but I'll complain about that now and be wishing for tomorrow because there might be some storms and showers. So fingers crossed we'll get the Friday Night Lights session in. It got rained out a couple years ago, so we'll see. But yeah, the reason why the team was not in pads today is the NFL mandates you can't be in pads more than 3 straight days. And with Pittsburgh always in pads for a physical Friday Night Lights practice, had they been in pads today, they couldn't be on Friday. So a padless day, although still intense, still a good day of practice.
All right. Well, a lot of people obviously excited. So here's hoping the weather stands up, because a couple of years ago, everybody got out there and it was that deluge and I think thunder and lightning, and they had to shut it down there. Alex, as we do every time on the special edition of the Terrible Podcast, we shout out the sponsor of these segments, and that is Touring Plans, touringplans.com. Tell the folks about Touring Plans again.
Got to shout out Touring Plans in Lentesta, our annual Steelers Depot training camp sponsor. Touring Plans is the best place to book your upcoming trip to Disney World, Disneyland, and also the Disney Cruise Line. With them, you'll get access to a crowd calendar to know the days and times when the parks are the busiest and least busy, plans to avoid waiting in line once you get to the park, insider restaurant reviews, how to save money on tickets, and just overall tips to have the best time possible, again, for Disney World, Disneyland, or Disney Cruise Line. Been a long-time sponsor, gotten a ton of good feedback over the years from people who have listened to the podcast and planned a trip to Disney and gone through Touring Plans. So check them out, touringplans.com, and tell them Steelers Depot sent you.
Please do. All right, Alex, with that out of the way, our housekeeping has as we talked yesterday after the 2 outside linebackers, David Perales and Kyron Johnson, got dinged up. We kind of wondered if there would be an outsider brought in. Not only did they bring in an outsider, they brought in a familiar outsider. So catch everybody up on the transaction.
Yeah, and actually one other transaction just coming in right now, not incredibly relevant for Pittsburgh, but something to note here. Marquez Callaway has found a new home. He has signed with the New Orleans Saints. And so that's the team he was playing for and had his best seasons with. And so Pittsburgh releasing him earlier this week, and he is now back in New Orleans. In terms of what Pittsburgh did today, Marcus Golden being signed to provide outside linebacker depth. And that's not just a name that, might be there for some depth purposes and have a tough time making the 53. Golden, the guy that was on this roster last year. So I don't know how much you want to talk about that signing now or in tomorrow's regular show for Friday, but that is notable. Golden, by the way, since Medikevich is wearing his 44, the number Golden's worn has sported throughout his career. Golden is now wearing number 91. Just a heads up on that. But yeah, Kyron Johnson not practicing. David Perales waived injured. A lot of the vets who got rest days on Wednesday were back in full. Isaac Seumalo, TJ Watt, and Cam Hayward. Minka Fitzpatrick dressed but did not work in team, only in 7-on-7 and individual sessions. Rodney Williams with that shoulder still limited. Roman Wilson, of course, out with that ankle injury. Mike Tomlin calling it week to week. and Cordell Patterson doing a little more activity on the side. Still going to be a little ways away, but he's trying to get things going to get off NFI with that hamstring injury.
Yeah, I don't want to spend a lot of time. Obviously, we'll be talking about this on the regular edition of the Terrible Podcast, but a nice ad in Marcus Golden. I thought he represented himself really well. Obviously, Nick Herbig's going to, you would think, have a uptick in playing time and still do what he does on special teams. And we've had a lot of conversations about what that number 4 outside linebacker spot would look like. And it feels like right now the guy that takes the biggest ding, obviously Paralysis does with the injury and all, but Jeremiah Moon, what does this do to his roster chances? We'll get kind of deeper into that into the podcast on Friday morning here, but definitely a notable, not just any signing, a notable signing. You got an old friend back in the fold there. I wouldn't imagine he did too much today, right?
No, I think he got there a little bit late too, because I didn't see him down there initially. I didn't see his jersey number. I think he got out there right around the start of the individual period. I saw him dap up Alex Highsmith, kind of a welcome back. But he worked on the side during special teams period. He was going through some drills with the coach, 1v1, but did not work. He worked in the individual period, but did not work in team. I imagine he'll get back with the whole group here pretty soon.
All right, let's start with the quarterback position. How much more did Russell Wilson do today?
About the same, maybe even slightly less in terms of the team period stuff. Maybe he got a rep or two in there, but that was it. Still is not throwing a pass in team. He did throw in 7-on-7. First time I really got to watch Wilson throw because it was the padless practice. They didn't do the O-line, D-line, which is when they do 7-on-7. So I got to watch that instead. And his first throw was a really pretty deep ball down the middle to Van Jefferson, who had a step on Joey Porter, and it was a nice throw and nice catch. Wilson did later underthrow a deep ball for Scotty Miller down the left sideline, but good to watch Wilson spin it. But in terms of activity and participation level, he went through individual, a rep or two in team, handoffs, but it's basically status quo on Russell Wilson.
Do you think that's going to continue for Friday Night Lights now? I was kind of hoping that by the time we got to Friday Night Lights, we'd see him more in a fuller capacity. Does it feel like they're going to just continue on this path with him right now for until at least after this next break, which might be when's the next break? Monday's the day off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, off day Monday and then back Tuesday. That would be my guess. Again, I would have guessed he would have been doing more by this point. So I'm just speculating here, obviously, but I'm not going in expecting Wilson to kind of work truly full for Friday Night Lights.
All right. Let's talk, as Mike Tomlin would say, let's talk about the players that were out there more in full. Justin Fields, what kind of day did he have? Not in pads. And what's his, Kyle Allen had a couple of good practices, I think, to start off camp there. Is he fading a little bit?
He had one bad practice the other day, but I think he's been fine since, and he's had a good camp overall. I thought both quarterbacks did well. They ran 2 minute for the first time today of all training camp, and both quarterbacks put the ball in the end zone. Fields threw a pass over the middle in the back of the end zone to Pickens, who skied and caught it, while Allen hit Jeray Jenkins for a touchdown over the middle on kind of a tip pass, little squeeze throw, but a nice job there by Jenkins to come down with it. So, obviously, I think Arthur Smith talked about this, or Tomlin did post-practice. It's not 100% simulation because of the setup, and quarterbacks can't get hit and all those kinds of things. But, yeah, I think Fields and Allen both had nice days.
How would you rank on a scale of maybe 1 to 10 Fields, practices through 7 practices now?
I'd have to sit down and think about it and run some of the numbers to kind of help give me an objective level, just as a one data point. Again, I think at the start, the first day was good, a little bit of shakiness. The next couple of days, he had that really strong day. I think it was the first padded practice. The days are running together. If I had to give a number, and I'm not big on doing grades until the very end as we see totality of process, but a number 1 to 10, 10 being the best, 6.5 or so.
Okay. All right. How's he doing on more of the accuracy on the intermediate throws and all?
Yeah, I think he's been more consistent overall. I think he's gone through his reads. The first play, 7 shots, looking left, going back to his right. Did get picked today by Thomas Graham Jr. I don't know if it was a bad ball. It was tight window throw, and Graham wrestled the ball away from whoever it was. It might have been Connor Hayward, but there's been a couple of interceptions on Fields' end. But I think overall the accuracy on some of the routine type stuff, I think certainly has improved from where it was over the first, say, 3-4 practices.
What'd you think about it? We'll recap 7 shots at the end, but what'd you think about the throw to Pickens in the end zone? Oh, no, that was the end of the 2-minute drill, I think.
It was. Yeah, it was. I mean, it was a high ball, but, Pickens can go up there and get that, and he certainly did. So it's kind of his ball or no one's ball, and to kind of really just test that. And Queen was on Pickens. I don't know if that was zone or some sort of slot type thing where, linebacker got matched up on wide receiver, but Fields found the right matchup, threw a good enough ball, and let his receiver make the play.
Oh, all right. Let's see. Anything else to add on the quarterback? You're seeing all the hallmarks of the Arthur Smith offense, after doing the deeper study into that earlier in the offseason.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's basically been as advertised with the pistol, with the wide zone, with the screen game. It has been, good working the field horizontally and vertically, really hitting all levels. It's to me been what I expected it to be.
More under center than what we're used to.
Yes, significantly a lot more under center.
All right, what do you have on the running backs today, Alex?
Yeah, again, with them not being in pads, a little less evaluation here. I think Najee Harris, I think him and Pat Frymuth, the guys from the 21 class, have really come into their own to really they've always, I think, been good teammates, but to really emphasize that in terms of being more vocal. You saw Najee Harris, he's always kind of talking up guys or doing stuff on the side, telling running backs to go finish the run, or, Jack Coletta made a nice play in one-on-ones today and Harris was hyping him up. And I've seen that with Frymuth as well. So just really, taking that active leadership role, probably even more so in a more vocal, visible manner. Those guys have always worked hard. I think they've led by example in really positive ways throughout their career as young guys that came to a young offense with a lot of changes. I think they've had to probably grow up faster than they would have, 10, 15 years ago in a Pittsburgh Steelers offense. But point is, I think I'm seeing Harris be more of that vocal leader, which is nice to see overall. I do want to know, and it's funny you mentioned Jack Coletta, I think yesterday's show, and he continues to impress. I think he's caught the ball well. He's done lead blocking. He's worked on teams. Arthur Smith talked about him and talked about the fullback position more generally today post-practice. There's certainly a chance. I'm not putting him on the roster necessarily today. At least I'm not rubber stamping it. But there's a path and a way for a guy like Coletta to see the field and make this team.
Yeah, Arthur Smith talked a little bit about the fullback. We'll go in deeper into those comments that he made during the Friday morning podcast and all. Who's the running back at this point right now? And obviously we got a little over a week to go before the first preseason game, but not named Najee Harris, not named Jaylen Warren. Who's the running back to watch in that first preseason? Maybe watch closer. And we haven't really mentioned the name of Dejon Edwards too much, but I am seeing Shamklin name get thrown out there, more and more. Is he one that maybe deserves a lot of eyes in that first preseason game?
I mean, I think they all do. I think it's still pretty tightly contested. It does feel like Shamklin is kind of, I don't know. I don't want to say moving up the depth chart, but getting some more reps and getting reps before some of the other guys. P. Ryan was kind of getting those looks earlier in camp. Now it feels like Shamklin is getting the initial reps after, Harris and Warren are done through their team periods, but they're all still pretty tightly bunched. It's them, it's Jonathan Ward. And I want to see Edwards be able to get the ball in some of those run live tackling sessions to get a real feel for his power and finish and his lateral mobility, which I think is his best trait, ability to kind of change directions and jump cut and do those types of things. So again, today, tougher to evaluate. A lot of this will come down to pass protection. I think the backs have done a nice job overall there. Special teams, what can Shamklin offer? Ward has experience there. Edwards did a lot of it in college. And so there's still a lot of things to evaluate inside stadiums. It'll be really important for them. I want to watch them all, but I think Shamklin, if you had to give a name that kind of has slight edge going into that first preseason game about a week from now, I'd go Shamklin.
And obviously, boy, Jack Coletta, we're going to have him. We'll be spotting that 45 in that first preseason game, won't we?
Yeah, he should play a lot on special teams, and I imagine they're going to, have a fullback out there for, depending on game circumstance, but ideally, 10, 15 snaps.
All right, what do you have from the tight ends today?
Darnell Washington, I think, has really started to pick things up here, which is
Good.
good to see after a quiet start to training camp. Had a touchdown in 7 shots. It was a little short throw from Fields as he went to a second read going left to right. And it wasn't anything crazy in terms of the catch, but touchdown is a touchdown, and certainly take that. And some of the 1v1 sessions, watching him run routes and, be able to kind of really bully some of these smaller linebackers, guys like Jacoby Windman and Tyler Murray as well. And then in 2-minute drill on a 4th down play, making a catch to keep the drive going down to the 5, about a 10, 15-yard gain on a crossing route. His hands look really strong. He's caught the ball away from his body. He's soft hands, natural catcher, and just getting some more targets and looks. So I'm seeing Washington, after really not being involved in the pass game the first 4 days, he's starting to get more looks and making the most of those chances.
On that deeper throw from Fields down the left side to Connor Hayward, kind of dropped in there. It seemed like him and George Pickens were in the same area. Did somebody run the wrong route there? It's hard to know, not
right.
seeing everything develop and all like that. So you're playing guessing games off a clip, which is a big no-no.
Yeah, they were close. I don't know if Pickens saw the ball and thought maybe it'd be for him, and then kind of started to change his route. I hadn't seen the clip back. I know that Hayward, at first I thought I was going to go for Pickens. Then Hayward kind of ducked out and appeared and leapt and made a really nice catch. So I can't tell you for sure. I'd have to even go watch it back, watching it live. They were kind of tight, but I don't know if Pickens thought maybe this might be my ball and I'm going to go try to make a play on it. But either way, Hayward made a really nice catch.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest takeaway there with the hands by Connor Hayward, and I think that was one of your highlighted in the post notes today. That and look, he have a drop early in camp or something like that, kind of uncharacteristic, and I think that's one of his calling cards with Connor Hayward, is just generally reliable hands.
Yeah, really good hands. Right up there. Maybe not quite as good as Freiermuth, but pretty close. And he can make some really athletic plays in the air. I think his body control is really, really impressive. And he's got good hands overall. So even there was a catch in, I think it was 7-on-7. I don't think it was team, where it was a short throw, but a little outside his frame and coming in pretty hot. And he made the catch and just secured it well. So this is a guy that generally catches almost everything.
All right, wide receivers. George Pickens, I think, earned his cafeteria dinner today. Did he not?
I think he earned that. I think he earned a steak dinner, lobster, whatever his meal of choice is. Nice day for him. I'd venture to say his best practice so far. I think he's had good practices overall, but targeted a ton. I want to pull numbers on him just to see the number of targets, and had that touchdown to cap off the 2-minute drill. But that was a deep ball that who threw that deep ball? Was it Fields? I think downfield. Yeah, it was against some of the backup defenses, but a big 40-plus yard play from Fields to Pickens down the right sideline. Even in 7-on-7, Russell Wilson looking his way quite a bit, seeing some chemistry between those guys. 2-minute, Pickens making a couple of catches, targeted again a ton today. Zach Azzani praising him and some of the just drill work in 1v1, working on beating press man. Azzani really happy with Pickens' physicality, his hand use, getting off the line against Dante Jackson. So just overall, a really good day for George Pickens.
All right, what about the rest of the wide receivers? Did you get to focus on them on some one-on-one stuff today? Talk to me about Calvin Austin III and Jahray Jenkins, JJ, they call him evidently out there. Yeah, you seem to feel, because we just had to talk just, 24 hours ago, 48 hours ago, about which one maybe of those wide receivers sort of on the back end of the depth chart might be separating themselves. You have a nice note in there about Jahray Jenkins today.
Yeah, I think he's above where some of the real back end of the depth chart guys are at in terms of Jacob Copeland, Deuce Watts, really struggling to get reps, opportunities there. I think Jenkins has been able to play up in some kind of second team rotational work. And again, they mix and match these guys a lot, but you're seeing him get a lot more reps, a lot more looks, have the touchdown, nice concentration on that last play of practice over the middle. Somebody got a hand on it underneath, and the ball fluttered a bit, and Jenkins still, good concentration, good body control, made the catch for the touchdown. So that's a guy that is, gunning, I think, for a practice squad spot. Van Jefferson, nice day for him. He was on the receiving end of that deep ball in 7-on-7, with good coverage overall from Porter. Jefferson making some plays. And so I was thinking about, your question the other day. You see, am I writing his name in pen? I'm not, but I think he's a guy that is clearly a starter right now. If the season began today and they come out with their first 2 receiver set, it's going to be George Pickens and Van Jefferson. And Austin is a number 3 and 11 personnel. So he's a guy that has certainly helped his cause and I think steadily increasing his chances of making the team.
Did you get a chance to watch a lot of the DB on wide receiver?
They didn't do true one-on-ones today. They were doing 2-on-2, kind of working, route combinations and pattern matching and passing things off. And so it's a little less of the competitive nature of it as it is kind of just repping, what routes look like and how to communicate and working off stacks, all that kind of stuff. So not as much to note here. I know they'll do it tomorrow for Friday Night Lights. Hopefully I can watch. I know they're going to do backs on backers, and that's always where my head turns to whenever those events happen. But I just thought he would just over the course of practice and getting to watch 7-on-7 today, a little more 1v1 action there. Jefferson making plays.
All right, what do you got on the offensive line today? And are the lines still running the same?
Yeah, lines are the same, more limited in terms of the information because they weren't in pass and they didn't do O-line, D-line, 1v1. Thought Dylan Cook had a nice day watching him against Marvin Leal in 2-minute drill. I thought, Leal had some good battles and I think nearly caught the edge maybe one time, but Cook, I thought, won most of the reps there overall. So good chance to kind of get to watch some of those moments there in team. Spencer Anderson has been a good run blocker. He's gotten work just overall throughout camp, left guard, right guard. He had a good, I think, clear out and seal against Logan Lee today. So that's a guy that, can he try to find a way on this roster somehow? Still a little tough to see how that fits, but his play, I think, has been warranting, having him in the conversation, keeping him in the conversation too. If somebody gets hurt, if somebody gets traded, or you just really want to keep 10, if you're really worried about losing a lineman, which typically linemen are the guy maybe most vulnerable to getting claimed off of waivers in an O-line starved world. So, that's one of the top names I want to watch in the preseason opener is Spencer Anderson.
All right. Do you think we'll see any Dylan Cook at guard this year in the preseason?
I think you asked me that before. I was leaning no because they have so many guards they want to get reps and get looks at. Injuries can dictate a lot. You lose a couple guards and, depending on reps you give to starters like, say, Malu and Daniels, we'll see, but right now I'm not getting the indication that it's going to happen. Cook has been just really just a left tackle so far.
All right. Anything else on the wide receivers? Quez Watkins, Scotty Miller, those guys that are behind the top 4, if you will.
Miller's fast, which is no surprise, but you saw his speed today. He caught a deep ball. And then, like I said, Wilson underthrew him. He's constantly got to step on some of these, granted more backup corners, McMichael and Barnes, but Barnes is super fast. He ran like 4.2, low 4.2s coming out of Baylor, and Miller burned him. Obviously, time speed and game speed are different things. So, Miller ran a real fast time out of Bowling Green. So that Miller's, game speed and time speed are identical.
All right, let's see. Offensive line, we've gotten to. Let's switch over to the defensive line. Obviously, not in pads. Probably not a lot to talk about there. But I think another mention of maybe Leal and Montravius Adams, and one of the guys that they claimed off of waivers here just before it started training camp, making a little bit of noise, couple of plays.
Yeah, it's Willington Prevlian. I told people that is a real name. It's Willington Prevlian from Rutgers, which sounds so, I don't know, like Victorian era, but I'm sure he's a great guy. He had some pressure today and had a forced fumble on Kyle Allen, although I don't know if that's a bad thing because after the forced fumble, they just moved the ball up 15 yards. I don't know if there's a penalty for touching the quarterback, how that all works, but he got some pressure today. Adams had pressure. Leal, was getting work and had a nice play and run session to beat his block. I don't know exactly how he did it, but he did got in the backfield at the line of scrimmage to meet the running back. He also played, Leal did, because they only had 5 full outside linebackers today. Leal was playing some outside linebacker, which I actually don't love that much. I just want to let this guy play defensive line. I know it's practice and it's one day, and Golden's going to, probably be working full here tomorrow. If not tomorrow, then by the weekend. But I would rather just Leal to play the tackle and kind of focus on that one spot.
If they needed a roster spot right now, would Jacob Slade be the first guy out the door?
I was thinking about that because I knew they were going to sign an outside linebacker today. So I was preemptively going through my list of names of who could potentially be cut. I also had a good feeling Prowse was going to get waived injured, which is ultimately what happened. They did just release Jonathan Marshall. So I don't know if they're going to release 2 defensive linemen knowing that, how much is Cam going to play in the opener? How much is
Right.
Ogunjobi going to play? Like, not much. And so you probably want to be a little bit deeper along the D line. I was wondering who might be the next to go, and I'm still really not sure. Could you try to play one short on the O line and give somebody else like a Dylan Cook reps at guard if you released Tyler Beach or somebody like that? That's possible. I'm not sure. I mean, Slade is certainly down the pecking order. He's gotten a little bit of reps, but not much. And had you had the old days of the cuts to 85 or 80, or the old cut to 75, Slade would be probably one of the first names to suggest. But I wonder, with cutting Marshall, they're going to cut another D lineman, knowing that you're probably going to need some of those guys to get you through your opener.
We haven't talked a lot about Larry Ogunjobi. Obviously, barring something unforeseen, going to be on to 53.
Yeah, I should have mentioned that in my camp summer. I think Ogunjobi has had a nice camp. He's been healthy, which is good. Knock on wood. He's always kind of got a toe issue or foot thing or something that ails him, and hopefully he gets out of camp healthy. It'll be the first time if he's able to. He had a good run stop against Najee Harris in one of the first, I think the team period after 7 shots today. I think he's played the run well, and again, I'm happy he's healthy. So it has been, to my estimation, a good camp for Larry Ogunjobi.
All right, outside linebackers. They had some unique looks today, did they?
They did. They were doing some funky stuff, later in the team periods, 2 minutes, some 3 outside linebacker looks with TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith, and also Nick Herbig aligned. It's a little hard to tell in the angle, but almost like aligned as a 3-tech, kind of inside of TJ Watt, who's outside the tackle, and then Herbig with his hand down, probably in that 3-tech, I don't know, 4-eye, whatever you want to call it, somewhere in there, and mixing and matching and kind of doing some different stuff with some 3 outside linebacker looks and some amoeba defense as well. In 2 minutes, they were running 1 defensive lineman, with Adams being the lone D lineman out there, with Herbig and Watt and Highsmith on the field. I'll talk about Corey Trice even getting looks in those in that package as well, which is also pretty interesting. But yeah, some different looks and some situational football.
All right. Once again, Jeremiah Moon, probably the big loser when it comes to the Golden Edition, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's a guy that would have his spot probably most threatened, because obviously, Watt and Highsmith are locks, and to me, Herbig is a lock as well. It'll be interesting, though, because Moon can play on special teams and Golden can't. That's going to be an edge to Moon there. I was having a discussion with Larry, who's in the stands today. He's a big Depot fan, and he was asking, could you keep 5 outside linebackers? Could you keep Golden and Moon, and maybe only 4? And, what's going to happen with Cole Holcomb? What's his health situation like? So there's a good discussion I'm sure we'll have on the Friday show about what Golden means, and does that hurt Moon, and how things can be set up from there.
All right, we'll table that for Friday morning. We'll dive deeper into that. How about the inside linebacker position there? Patrick Queen can cover some ground, can he not?
Man, this guy gets from point A to point B in just a blink of an eye. I mean, it was the same team period, 3 plays apart. The first one, Najee Harris, a check down right flat. Queen is right there. Screenplay, 2 plays later to Jalen Warren left side. Queen's on top of that as well. Jumps on Warren's back, kind of falls over. I think he got the wind knocked out of him or hit something. He was okay. But, I mean, just watching Queen just take everything away in the flat, sideline to sideline. Not the first time I've seen it in camp earlier on some of the RPOs type stuff. There was a play to Freiermuth where Queen shut that down right away. I think it was, didn't someone post that, Freiermuth or Queen, on their Instagram story of those two, like at the catch point a couple days ago?
Yeah, I mean, great shot. Great shot. Really
cool shot. So that's just how Queen is on you like that. And so it's been, what Pittsburgh, I think, has been hoping for with him. And even communication has been clean. The defense does not seem out of sorts. I know they've talked about that with Queen, that is, because he's wearing the green dot now. And there was a question was, okay, he's out of Baltimore where Roquan Smith wore a green dot. Would, Queen do that well in Pittsburgh? And obviously you're going to judge that better when you're, in loud environments, inside stadiums, really at home, because that's when the crowd is loud for the opposing offense. But I think Queen has been excellent.
Shout out to Mark Robinson today, huh?
Yeah, he had a breakup. It was him. It was him in 7 shots, right? Are the other people?
I think he had one there, and I thought his name showed up in the Twitter feed on another play as well too. I might have been mistaken.
You could be right. I'm trying to think. He had one in 7 shots.
I know one of them was in 7 shots around the goal line or something.
Yep.
And I can't recall. I thought I saw his name twice on maybe past breakups.
I'd believe it. Maybe it would have come one of those 1v1 or kind of 2v2 drills. I'd have to check back to my notes. It's not coming to mind right now, but certainly had the one in 7 shots. And so that was good. It was a underneath throw. I couldn't get a great vision of the play, but I saw Robinson get his hand in there and swat it away. So more plays he can make in coverage, the better.
What about Tyler Matakevich on the defensive side of football?
He's played the run well. He's blitzed. He hasn't gotten a ton of reps, I think, in part because they know what he can do and what he's about. And so you want to give reps to younger guys like a Mark Robinson, like a Peyton Wilson, obviously, even Jacoby Windman. Tyler Murray's not seeing a lot of snaps right now, but Windman's seeing a fair amount of time. So, yeah, it's been good for Matakevich, but one of those guys where I kind of know what he's all about and what he's going to do. The team does as well, so I don't spend a ton of time honing in on Matakevich.
I think in those 2-on-2 drills there, Tyler Murray went up against Washington and Darnell sat him down.
Yeah, very physical, like I said, bullying some of those smaller linebackers, and no shame in that, but not much you can do when Big 80's running at you full steam ahead.
Murray's still probably going to get a lot of burn. Assuming he stays on the roster another week, he's probably going to get some burn in that first preseason game. So he'll get an opportunity. Mark Robinson going to probably get a lot of burn in that game. I would imagine, I don't know how much Matakevich you have to get out there, but let's see who. Obviously, Peyton Wilson going to probably play a ton in that first preseason game. How much Landon? I mean, you want to get Queen and Roberts out there some working, at some point during the preseason. I do kind of wonder how much those guys will. What about Jacoby Windman? Give me a Jacoby Windman update.
Yeah, I think he's gotten more reps than Murray. Murray could be one of those guys that they had to make a roster move and free up a spot. Murray might be one of those guys that is cutting it pretty close there in terms of trying to survive in advance. But I don't have anything specific on Windman. The coverage has been seems a little slow in terms of being able to run and turn with some of these guys out there in space. I think he's come downhill and played the run fairly well. But I don't have any great takeaways from Windman other than to say I think the run defense has been decent. The reps are there in coverage. He's probably really a zone guy.
All right, let's move to the defensive backs. What was Cameron Sutton? Where was he playing today? And let's start there.
As far as I could tell, just playing safety, even in the individual sessions, which is harder to see because they're on the far field away from the bleachers, but my binoculars can certainly help. And he was working with the safeties, not working with the cornerbacks in individual. And maybe that was because he played a lot of safety in the team periods today and some of that situational 2-minute work. He was playing safety in 2-minute drill and third down period. Earlier session, he was working at safety. So he's played, some slot corner, but today working really as a de facto safety. And Minkah Fitzpatrick not working in team, and they don't have a ton of safeties to begin with, helps maybe create some of those opportunities. But we've seen Sutton, play safety in some of those post-snap rotations and dime packages in his first stint with Pittsburgh. And I think he's got the IQ and all that to play maybe I don't want to say full-time safety, but if he had to play safety, then I think he's comfortable doing that.
All right, you gave us Corey Trice more of a dime backer role.
Yeah, and that 2-minute drill and that amoeba look, Trice was out there as it was a 1-4-6 because it was 1 D lineman, Adams, your 3 outside linebackers, an inside linebacker, and then 6 DBs. And Trice was that 6 DB for at least a couple of reps. They eventually scrapped the amoeba, 2-3 plays in, and just went with their traditional 2-down lineman look. But that was notable to see Trice. I think he was lined up over tight end, and so he's kind of got that size, is that safety background, was a safety at Purdue before moving down the corner. So that was encouraging to see them do something different and new and exciting, and for Trice to get those reps.
All right, Kalen Barnes, shout out to him. He had an interception today. You mentioned that earlier there. Who is obviously Cameron Sutton suspended for the first half of the season there. Right now, if you had to guess, who's your first outside cornerback off the bench?
Did I say Barnes earlier? Did I say that on the interception? It was Thomas Graham Jr. If I said it wrong, I apologize.
Oh, no, maybe you did. Maybe I repeated it wrong. You're right. You're right. I don't know if you said it or not, but I remember seeing you. I know you tweeted it on Twitter.
Yeah, Graham. I mentioned Barnes.
Shout out. Sorry, wrong shout out. Shout out Thomas Graham. I'm sure he's listening.
Yeah, you're right. And Kalen, you'll get your interception tomorrow, I'm sure. But yeah, Graham had that. He's gotten some extra slot work with Josiah Scott being released. And I don't know how much I saw Graylin Arnold today. And then with, like I said, Sutton working safety, that kind of gave at least some, either second or third team reps there to Thomas Graham Jr., who wrestled the ball away from somebody and made the interception. So that was good. Anthony Averett getting some more reps. I think he's gotten increased time. Like I said, Cam Sutton going to safety was something to file away.
All right, who's your first outside corner off the bench?
For the preseason game, I mean, they're going to be in pairs. If
Right.
Porter and Jackson play, then it's going to be the next two on.
Who's your next two on?
It should be Darius Rush, although it feels like maybe he hasn't gotten quite as many reps the last day or two. I want to watch that over the weekend as well. But I will say Darius Rush, and then it's gotten a little bit it had been Rush and Barnes, and then I've seen Averett get some more snaps. I'll say Rush and I'll go Rush and Averett right now as things stand.
All right, who would be your third group of two then?
Then that's where it's going to be Barnes and probably Trice. Again, it sounds like they're intentionally being a little careful with him, but Barnes and either Graham or Trice. I'll say Barnes and Trice right now, though.
All right, yeah, and just for listeners, we try to just get lines in the sand of where we think guys are running at. Don't we could get to the preseason game, be totally different at that point. It'd still be fluid throughout there, but it's always kind of fun in my head to at least try to paint a picture of what to kind of look for. And look, we still got a week before that first preseason game. Anything on safety?
Ryan Watts has gotten dimebacker work, had a really nice breakup on a extended play where Julius Wolshoff was pressuring John Rice Plumlee, and Plumlee threw across left side, and Watts dive, full extension, used all that length, those 34.5-inch arms to bat the ball away. So I don't want to say his camp has been standout, but I think it's been versatile. I think he looks relatively comfortable playing safety. He's made some plays, giving up a catch or two, but I like what Ryan Watts has done so far.
All right, give me your special analysis on special teams.
Yeah, full work on the kick return game today. Obviously, it's not live right now, and it's still kind of half speed, and they're getting acclimated, but there was a lot of time dedicated to that. So they had returners, not just Christian Kuntz and Matthew Wright moonlighting as return men. So here were the basically the lines in terms of the kick return pairs, because there's a landing zone. You put two back there. And remember, Cordell Patterson on NFI, so he's not part of this right now. But first group was Jalen Warren and John Rice Plumlee. Second group, Calvin Austin and Quez Watkins. Third group, Jonathan Ward and Dejon Edwards. And then a little bit later, kind of mixing and matching, fourth group of John Rice Plumlee again and Scotty Miller. And so, again, Ward and Plumlee, the first two off the bench, quote unquote, to be back there for the return.
I'm watching this preseason game tonight because I want to watch this kickoff.
Who said it's going to be the most watched preseason game in NFL history?
Did Danny Smith say that or something?
I think he did say that. Yeah, somebody tweeted that out, and he's probably not wrong about it. At least most watched by coaches. I don't know if fans will watch it too, but the coaches will be watching that, I think, very intently.
Oh, I'm going to eat it up. I'm that guy that looks forward to this. And normally we're recording this podcast about halfway through it.
Right.
So I think we might be able to watch that thing start to end. All right, walk everybody through 7 shots first, please.
Well, let me just mention on the kick return stuff too. I'll give you the initial starting unit and reminder that people, these guys mix and match. So you have your return unit and your coverage unit. And so I don't want to say this is the starting group because things are kind of divvied up here. But Beanie Bishop, DeMonte Casey, Nick Herbig, Peyton Wilson, Mark Robinson, Isaiah Loudermilk, Tyler Medikevich, Miles Killebrew, Jeremiah Moon, and Corey Trice Jr. That's on the coverage team, the 10 players. And I should note as well, you probably heard Loudermilk's name in there. Wouldn't have really been an option under the old rules, but we saw a bunch of defensive linemen at least getting work in some capacity. I saw Loudermilk and Leal and even Fehoko for one rep on the coverage unit. On the return team, the blocking unit, the front line, I saw Fehoko with a bunch of reps and a little bit of Logan Lee as well. And so I talked about, could new positions be options in the kick game when they typically wouldn't have been before? And
especially with the bigger bodies, right?
Right. Defensive lineman. I still wonder, I think offensive lineman could work out there on the return team. Didn't see it today, but you're seeing a bunch of those guys. Also, Wellington Preblian getting work out there as well. I even saw Keanu Benton. He put on the little beanie to kind of declare that he's going to be on the coverage team, but I didn't see him actually run down the kicks. There was a break, and then he subbed out. And so you could just imagine Keanu Benton on kick coverage. Probably not, but he almost did it for a second today. So that was interesting. And again, I know in the past the linemen have done it before. Brett Kiesel cut his teeth there, way back when, and Henry Mondeau did it for a time. But I think you can really explore options, and you probably see some more frequently the bigger people out there.
Special teams coaches might do some size mismatches.
Yeah, I mean, like get Mason McCormick on the return team. Get Darnell Washington on the return team. Put your big people out there. I mean, I think that'd be interesting. And maybe they will. I'm sure some teams will try it. And maybe it won't work. And if it doesn't work in the preseason, then this is what the preseason is for. So, yeah, we'll see. But it'll be kickoffs are now exciting to look at.
All right. Walk us through 7 shots, please.
All right. Let me pull up my notes here. Defense won 7 shots, 5-2. The first play was Fields with a good read and progression, hitting Washington for a touchdown. Next one, taken away, thrown out of the end zone incompletely. The defense has done a good job plastering against some of these kind of extended plays throughout training camp. Third play was Fields running Van Jefferson, Dante Jackson. Nice breakup for the incompletion. Fourth one, Jefferson getting some revenge, catching a touchdown against Jackson. Next one, this was a shovel pass from Kyle Allen to Aaron Shamplin. So again, seeing Shamplin kind of get those more immediate reps after Harris and Warren. Peyton Wilson wrapped him up. It was close. It was right on the goal line. The ref ruled him short, so I'll give the defense the win here. I don't know how Tomlin felt about that and scored that. Next one was the breakup by Mark Robinson, and then the final one was Kyle Allen thrown pretty high for Michael Pruitt, Anthony Averett covering, and again, defense winning 5-2. All
right, 2-minute drill. They got benefited a couple of times. I think TJ Watt maybe should have had a sack in there, and I think something else happened on the second with Kyle Allen doing it. But both technically both offenses scored, right? Can you take us through that real quickly?
Yeah, there was a lot of pressure. And like I said, this is the one where Prevlian had the forced fumble on Kyle Allen. Okay. And he just moved the ball up 15 yards and played on. So had this been a real game, the offense is not putting the ball in the end zone. But ultimately, Fields, a couple of checkdowns early, hit Pickens, hit Austin on a slant. He scrambled one time and then found Pickens for, I don't know exactly how long the touchdown was, maybe 5-10 yards. Kyle Allen coming in. Got off to kind of a bumpy start. There was a 4th down. That was when Washington made that catch to keep it going. And then that touchdown over the middle to Jenkins that was tipped by somebody underneath, but ultimately a touchdown for both Justin Fields and Kyle Allen.
All right. Rate the practice 1 to 10 today.
In terms of
just
like
the all
quality.
Quality and, based on, expectation. I mean, you knew that they probably weren't going to be in pads and all. So, just kind of loosely rate it.
Yeah, for a non-padded practice, it was pretty spirited. There was another skirmish, as your favorite word, where it was not quarterback hit, not involved with a quarterback's end of a run. I think this video out there, I have not Zapruder filmed today's video on this, but I think it was Beach and Lee that got into it, and then I think Liao was going kind of crazy. I don't know for sure.
He tried to flip Spencer Anderson or something, or one of those guys.
I think he got on top of somebody, and somebody was punching somebody like pretty legit, like body shots. I don't know what was going on there.
And George Pickens comes out of the pile with a helmet and rolls it off like a bowling ball or something. It's kind of good. And flags flying all over the place.
Right, which I'm not sure what the point of a flag is in this. There's no penalty you can actually assess. So there was that going on. So that's pretty uncommon for in pads. You kind of expect that it's more physical, more intense for a padless practice. Remember, there were no fights last year, like no skirmishes, brouhahas, as you might say. A lot of them this year. So there was that. Yeah, and quality, I don't know, a 7 or something. It was a good practice, especially for the situation of not being fully padded up.
All right, you excited to get out there for Friday Night Lights and hope the weather cooperates?
Yeah, hopefully the weather. It's probably going to be some rain, but hopefully no lightning because they will not practice if there's lightning. But yeah, I mean, it's always a lot of fun. It's always the highlight and great for the community. So excited for it.
All right. I appreciate you painting the picture for me and the listeners as you do every day after these practices with Friday Night Lights taking place on Friday night, the 2nd. Obviously, we do not have a special edition of the podcast after that because by the time when Alex gets back, he's got to write his diary up. It's too late, at that point. But we will have a Friday morning edition of the Terrible Podcast, a longer version. And then before we pack up Alex a lunch and send him off to Latrobe High School. What's the name of the stadium? Latrobe.
Latrobe Memorial.
Yeah. All right.
Stadium. Yeah.
All right. And you'll be out there, and people can follow you on Twitter at Alex_Kozora. They can follow me on Twitter at Steelers Depot. Follow the show at Terrible Podcast. Email the show, theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. If you like what we do, want to donate, SteelersDepot.com, hit the donate button. Also, if you like an ad-free version of the site, SteelersDepot.com, hit the ad-free button, follow the directions that way. Thank you, Alex. I always enjoy these. And until the Friday morning edition of the Terrible Podcast, as always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast, a special edition of the Terrible Podcast, Pittsburgh Steelers Training Camp 2024 with Dave and Alex.